Gentlemen, we are back again with the topic of the Raiders' offensive line. Because let's be honest, last year the Raiders' offensive line was very offensive to anyone who loved the game of football. And that has been the number one shtick against the Raiders this year. That, yeah, you have Mendoza, but what about your offensive line? That was so bad last year. You didn't fix that. So that means everything is still bad this year. So we're going to talk about the Raiders offensive line and essentially kind of show people who might be new to the Raiders and maybe don't watch the Raiders regularly why the offensive line is going to be very different and, may I say, very fixed based on what it was last year. And we're going to do that by focusing on each position, starting with the left tackle of the offensive line, Kolton Miller. Let's bring our boy up real quick. Kolton Miller is one of the best offensive tackles in the league. He's been ranked as high as top 5, right? The problem, though, is that Kolton Miller gets injured pretty much every season. He's a very big guy. Kolton Miller is 6'7", 326 pounds. He is a very big guy. So he does get a lot of lower body injuries. Pretty much every single year, Kolton Miller has been injured. But when he is not injured, Kolton Miller is one of the best doing it right now. Kolton Miller is still 30 years old, meaning that he's still in his prime. And as an offensive lineman and a big guy, unless he wants to retire early, Kolton Miller can play till he's around 36 years old. He can. But like I said, the problem is there are frequent injuries. So the Raiders drafted Trey Zhun. So what is special about Trey Zhun? Number one, Trey Zhun can play every position on the offensive line. He says it himself. Everyone says it about him. That's the number one thing about him that everybody knows to be it. He can play every position. Now, can he play every position at an A+ level? Maybe not. But in the NFL, there are good rooms for a jack of all trades, particularly in the offensive line. Meaning that Trey Zhun is also 6'7", 319 pounds. And at the age of 23, it can probably be around 325 pounds if he wants to. So Trey Zhun can carry a lot of weight, just like Kolton Miller. Okay, remember, Kolton Miller does get injured quite a bit. So a possible option that the Raiders would go with is to have Trey Zhun be the backup for Kolton Miller. Kolton Miller's 30 years old. Trey Zhun is 23. If Trey Zhun can be what we believe he can be a backup for Kolton Miller. Okay. Another option is a gentleman by the name of Charles Grant. Charles Grant is only 24 years old. So, one thing I need to let people know, and people need to keep this in mind whenever you talk about the Raiders are a very young football team. Pretty much every position, we are between the age of 21 to 26. I'm dead serious. The Raiders are a very young team. Okay. Charles Grant was drafted 2 years ago in the 3rd round. Charles Grant is 6'4", 304 pounds. Charles Grant is very powerful, so he's another possible option for the left side, although I'm going to back away because he's more for the right side. Okay. Now I'm going to jump to the controversy that everybody wants to cover, which is the center position. We're going to bypass the left guard position to go straight to the controversy, the center position. And we are going to start that by talking about Tyler Linderbaum. Okay, Linderbaum, not Lindenbaum, Linderbaum. Okay, cool. Tyler Linderbaum is the new center for the Las Vegas Raiders. Last year, the center was Jordan Meredith. Jordan Meredith is a center. However, the fight that people were having was regarding JPJ and Jordan Meredith and who should be center. Here's why the past coaching staff made the right decision to put Jordan Meredith there. Tyler Linderbaum is 6'2", 305 pounds. Tyler Linderbaum is the best center in the NFL. Currently the best center, or at the very least, 1 and 2. Jackson Powers Johnson is 6'3", 325 pounds. I do believe this is probably the reason why Jackson Powers-Johnson is a better guard than he is a better center. And rather than trying to do this jigsaw puzzle, which is what the Raiders have been trying to do with the O-line for the past 3 years, we just went ahead and just fixed it with money because we have a lot of that. That makes sense? We fixed it with money, and the money was Tyler Linderbaum. That was the money. So we just took care of that, meaning that going forward, there will be no more confusion about who's guard and who's center, because that was the biggest problem the Raiders O-line had last year. Back to the left guard position. With Tyler in the center, that means that Jordan Meredith can go back to his natural position of guard. However, the other possibility is we go back to Trey Zhun. Remember, Trey Zhun can play every single position. So it is feasible. Kolton Miller plays left tackle and Trey Zhun plays left guard. That would give you 2 6'7" monsters on your left side. Or shall we say, on the quarterback's blind side. Okay, that matters, right? So that could be a possibility. This is even more of a possibility because in football, especially in football, height matters. Go listen to my talk about Genti. Height matters. Height will give you an advantage and disadvantage. On the O-line, height also gives the quarterback an advantage or disadvantage. Okay, one of the big problems for quarterbacks, especially shorter quarterbacks, is being able to see past the offensive line, which means that you do have to consider how tall your offensive line are going to be. One of the reasons why the Raiders like myself are excited about Fernando Mendoza is because Fernando Mendoza is 6'5", meaning Fernando Mendoza can see over any offensive line unit that we put out there. We can indeed put 2 6'7" people right next to each other, playing tackle and playing guard. If they have the athleticism, we know that Kolton Miller does. If Trey Zhun has the athleticism, and it seems like he does, even though athleticism is going to be his weakness, so he may not be able to play tackle, and that's why people say that he's going to be a guard. Even though he's got the massive size to be a tackle, he's going to be a guard because he doesn't move as quick as somebody like a Kolton Miller. So, big package. We're talking big package at this point. 2 6'7" on your left side. Yo, Venti, my man, you are just in time because I am talking about the offensive line, and I just got to the left guard position. For the right tackle, for the left tackle, I said Kolton Miller is going to have it locked down, but Kolton Miller does get injured a lot. So Trey Zhun is probably going to be the backup for that, although Trey Zhun doesn't have enough speed based on what we know about his playing time in college, so he's going to be a guard. Now imagine, Venti, if you got Kolton Miller, 6'7" tackle, and 6'7" Trey Zhun playing left guard. Mendoza is 6'5". It can see over anything that we put up, so we can legitimately put up a wall in front of the defense, at least on that side, right? And then Jordan Meredith is going to be your backup or maybe starter, depending on how good he is. Okay, let's go back to the size concept here and look at Jordan Meredith. Miller needs to stay healthy. He does. He never does every year. Again, I say he's a big guy. It makes sense that he doesn't. So Raider Nation is not mad at him at all. Don't worry. We love our boy. We're not mad at him. We have talked about trading him, but we know he's a big guy. Staying healthy for a big guy is difficult to do. But again, remember, big guys play longer than most other players in the NFL. So he can play till he's around the age of 36. Okay. Keep that in mind. Jordan Meredith could be the possible left starting guard, and he is coming in at 6'2", 301 pounds. Again, height matters. In football, interior height matters even more. Yes, Trey Zhun can play guard, but only because Fernando Mendoza is 6'5", he can see over that. Generally speaking, your guard and your centers, you want them to be around 6'2" to 6'4". Generally speaking, so that your quarterback doesn't have any issues seeing over them. And this has been an issue in the past for quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, because that does depend on how you're going to scheme them up. I really think dude faked injury a lot over the year because, well, I would say no. I don't think that's the case. I really do think being as big as Kolton Miller does invite more lower body injuries. But I also think that his body is just gonna keep. I feel like people don't understand. I feel like the one thing science that we haven't comprehended when it comes to sports is the bigger you are means the bigger space your body has to grow. So Kolton Miller being 325 pounds, he can be bigger than that if he wants to. So a lot of his work is trying to maintain that core weight, which does put a lot of stress on his knees. And I think as he gets older, he's going to keep playing better and better and better, or more consistently. So I do think at some point going forward, I think Kolton Miller's body is going to stop getting injured as much, or it might just get too injured and then he has to retire. That also happens. But I say for the NFL, man, don't be too hard on your linemen who get injured a lot, because they're carrying a lot of weight. And part of their body of maintaining that weight is putting a lot of pressure, particularly on their knees. That's carrying a very heavy upper body. How many more years Miller has on his contract? I think he has 2 more years, but I hope we re-sign him because he's actually just hitting his prime now as an offensive lineman. Offensive linemen really hit their prime between like the age of 25. Their prime is more extended than a regular, than like a wideout. Again, because the downside of being so big is you do accrue more like knee injuries, but the positive side is your body can take a lot more longevity. So, okay. So guard, back to Meredith being 6'2". That's a great size for a guard. Okay. So he could be the guard there, or we could put in Trey Zhun. However, here's where the Raiders start to be extremely interested when it comes to the O-line position, because there's another guy here that we have by the name of Charles Rogers. Caleb Rogers. Okay. Caleb Rogers, we drafted him 2 years ago, and he's 6'4", 312 pounds. Remember, guards are good. Between 6'2" and 6'4" is a good guard. Caleb Rogers is a potentially good guard as well in either position, because one of his main traits was also the fact that he could play anywhere on the line, right? Okay. The other thing we got to talk about with the Raiders here when it comes to the O-line especially is contract years and age. Remember when I told you that the Raiders are a really young team? They are. And nowhere are the Raiders even younger than the offensive line, because everyone on our offensive line outside of Kolton Miller is 23 or 24. Meaning in the next 3 years, all of them are going to be looking for a contract. Okay, for people who are wondering, what is the Raiders' goal this coming year? This is the Raiders' goal this coming year. We need to find the foundational pieces for the Raiders for the next 10 years, positionally. Who is going to be our anchors at all of these positions? Remember, they're all between the age of 23 and 24. Meaning out of this 23 and 24-year-olds that we have, at each position, somebody needs to solidify themselves as the person for that position. You see what I'm saying? This is why Raiders Camp Battle is going to be so cool and so interesting, because everybody knows they're fighting for a massive contract in the next 3 years. When the Raiders drafted all of their free agents, how many years of contract did we give them? 3 years. The Raiders are rebuilding, and what that rebuild means is, who do we need to give money to in the next 3 years? That's what the Raiders team is going through right now. Players on the team, they are fighting for a big contract. Because the Raiders are so young, most positions are not really solidified yet. There are a few positions we know belong to some people, such as Kolton Miller will most likely win left tackle because he is one of the best in the league. Jackson Powers-Johnson will most likely be right guard. Center is for sure, right? But let's move on to the right guard. Let's move on to Jackson Powers-Johnson, because yes, Jackson Powers-Johnson is really good, but Jackson Powers-Johnson has two main issues. Number one is health. So Vente just said it. We're gonna have to pay a lot of guys in 3 to 4 years, but that's not the way to look at it. A lot of guys are going to receive some massive contracts in 2 to 3 years, and those guys know who they are. And one of them is Jackson Powers-Johnson. He has always had two problems. Number one is injuries. He gets injured too much. Okay, he needs to address that. Jackson Powers-Johnson gets injured every single year as well. He's been in the league for 3 years, and every single year he's been injured. Twice, 2 years, he was injured multiple times per year. Okay. Jackson Powers-Johnson is also known mostly as an aggressive, powerful guard and not so much of a tactician. And let me break that down by telling you this. Tyler Linderbaum, the number one trait that he's actually known for is being able to read the defense efficiently. He is very good at reading the defense. Let me find him real quick. Pay him some due respect. So Tyler Linderbaum is 6'1", 305 pounds. He is a wrestler. 6'2". He is a wrestler, one of the best wrestlers in college. The reason why he's a really good center is because one, he's only 6'2", so he's not 6'7". So again, that reduces injury because his body is just shorter. If you look at my thumbnail, you'll see the size difference. He's considerably shorter than Kolton Miller. And remember, in football, again, size does matter because the lower you are to the ground, the better center of gravity you're going to have. Better for your knees. So Tyler Linderbaum doesn't get injured. At least has not gotten injured very much, right? 6'2", lower to the ground, and is a wrestler. Really good base. That's what makes him a really good center. And that's why he's the best center in the league. His body's built for it, and he did the necessary steps. He learned some techniques through wrestling. Okay. So you go back to Jackson Powers-Johnson. He's a little bit taller. He plays more upright. So he uses more of his power. But sometimes that gets him in trouble because he can also be too aggressive, and that's always been the big flaw with the second flaw with Jackson Powers-Johnson. He plays too aggressively sometimes and gets flagged. Jackson Powers-Johnson, it's so crazy talking about him because if you watch his video, and we're not gonna do it now because we're talking about the overall offensive line, he will throw his body into anything to get the job done. Good. Aggression. And then we go to the right tackle, which is the least filled position, although I do think the current right tackle will actually win that job out. And his name is, why am I forgetting his name? Because his name is hard to remember. His name is actually hard to remember. See if you can remember the name that I'm thinking of. Oh, DJ Glaze. His name is hard to remember because DJ Glaze is not a common name to put together. Okay, DJ Glaze. You want to see something really, really cool about DJ Glaze? How many years has DJ Glaze been in the league, do you think, Venti? He's been in the league for 3 years, right? How many guys do you think we have to give new contracts to? In the next 3 years, we're going to have to give out new contracts to a lot of people, dude. A lot of people. It's not. I'm not even kidding. A lot of people, including possibly Fernando. Fernando Mendoza can get a new contract in 3 years also, if he's good. Yeah, we know that, right? He can get a brand new contract in 3 years. Oh yeah, the next 5 years for the Raiders, contract-wise, is going to be very interesting, right? Okay, DJ Glaze needs to show up. He's gonna again. No, he's not. Here's why. DJ Glaze has played 3 years in the NFL. DJ Glaze is still 23 years old. DJ Glaze was 21 when he got drafted. DJ Glaze is one of the youngest offensive lines that we have, and he's already started at the right side position. Well, he needs to get better. Well, sure, he needs to get better, but he's 23 years old. So, DJ Glaze will be fine. DJ Glaze is 6'4", pretty good height for a tackle. If he was 6'5", probably preferred. But again, DJ Glaze also doesn't get injured. DJ Glaze has not gotten any major injuries. Don't believe what you hear. Believe what you see. DJ Glaze was an all year. It was started all game, right? He started every game this past year, right? 6'4", 331, 23 years old. DJ Glaze is the youngest offensive lineman that the Raiders have. Well, maybe not by a few months. So, DJ Glaze, I believe, will be the right tackle. Here's the other catch, though. If DJ Glaze is not able to shape up, there is Charles Grant that I talked about earlier. So let's bring him up because he may be the starter at that position. You see that? DJ Glaze is younger than Charles Grant. Again, like, I think there's a tendency to write some things off based on the team not doing well overall, and keeping in mind that the positions that were of most consistency last year was Jordan Meredith at center and DJ Glaze at right tackle. Because Kolton Miller got injured a lot, and JPG got injured. Yeah, guys, DJ Glaze is not a bad player. Based on the facts of what we're seeing, he played all season and he started every game and didn't get injured and still started every game. DJ Glaze is not a bad player, and he's still 23 years old. Thoughts on that, Venti? So yeah, I think the starting line is going to be Kolton Miller. The left guard position is the one that's the least sure, because it could be Trey Zhun or it could be Jordan Meredith. That's an actual competition there. Or it could even be Caleb Rogers. That's an actual competition there. Or we could have two positions there, one for big package, Trey Zhun for big package. So remember, he's 6'7". Bring him in for big package, and then Jordan Meredith for regular packages, or maybe even Caleb Rogers. And then at the center position, we got Tyler Linderbaum. And remember, Jordan Meredith will go in as backup when Tyler if Linderbaum gets injured, but he hasn't gotten injured yet, so I don't think that's gonna happen. But if he does, there's a backup for that. And remember, Trey Zhun can also play center. And because our quarterback is 6'5", he can see over anybody easily. Okay, and for the left guard position, JPJ, I think it's still JPJ. The only other question there is Caleb Rogers going to take that position? Because again, age and skill matters, and Caleb Rogers is the same age as JPJ. And if he proves to be just equally as good, he's fighting for a contract in the next 2-3 years, just like Jackson Powers Johnson. So again, there's a battle happening in that particular position to watch out for. Okay, and then rounding that off is right tackle. Glaze, if you're still here, I hope you're still here, because it's hard for me to say who's going to start on the line. I need to see. Yeah, exactly. But remember, the other position we also did not address in the O-line specifically was the right tackle position. I think DJ Glaze might be coming along better than people are realizing, because he's got the size, 6'4", and he's 325. Unlike Charles Grant, who's actually only three something, much less. He's got the size, he's got the height, and he's got the speed. Based on what we're seeing, I think DJ Glaze might be much better off than we realize. With the center more solidified and with that guard next to him more solidified, I think DJ Glaze is going to prove to be a better. So that concludes this super in-depth conversation about the O-line. I'm gonna stop the conversation here and move on to something else. But I hope that answers the question for anybody who's wondering what the Raiders O-line situation is looking like. It's looking quite good. And the main reason is because Linderbaum fixes the #1 issue that we had, which was who's going to play the center, because we don't have a good prototypical center who has a technique and the brain for a center, as well as those other positions. And with Linderbaum in there, we have all three of those, because he's the best at that position in the league. Thank you for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Have a wonderful day.